Good morning and welcome. We're in Lillehammer in Norway, the final day of World Cup bobsleigh racing for the 24-25 season. And after a frigid overnight low, the track is in perfect condition, ready for the final day of a long fortnight of sleds hammering up and down for the last 2 weeks, 6 days a week. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Lillehammer, our second week of racing here on this 1994 Winter Olympic track. And again, the ice looks like it's in perfect condition. So what to expect? Well, a short run before the lip and then getting loaded is really important here. We haven't seen too many start mishaps, famous last words, into turn 1 and then 2 and 3, these two little right-handers. heading down into another pair of corners. Corner 4 leads straight into corner 5. So easy to skid away speed here. Exit of corner 6 is really important because this leads you into the labyrinth. 7, 8 and corner 9. And then into 2 lefts, 10 and 11, that effectively are one really long corner, and they join into corner 12. That leads you, hopefully relatively straight, into 13, the exit of which defines the rest of the run. Little right-handed 14, 2 pressure corner 15, over 82 miles an hour here, corner 16 and across the line. So the track record, 51.88 seconds, set last year by Kim Kilicki and Leonie Fiebig, and Keisha and Azaria Hill set the start record at 5:32. We've had track records both days so far, or both races so far this weekend, but the overnight low, we might not get them this morning, might maybe this afternoon, but it's a sunny day, -18 overnight. Ice temperature is hovering around -6. So with a nice fresh spritz on it, it's going to be pretty fast this morning. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, the weather was a little less frigid, and so conditions have been changing all the time. This is one of the joys of racing on ice tracks, is they are very much a product of the weather, and as we all know, the weather never quite does what you're expecting or maybe hoping it to do. So it is a very cold morning this morning, and we'll wait and see what our drivers, like Cathy Bile here, can manage. Margot Bock of France. And the others, we have 15 sleds in our field, including newcomer Erica Voss. So it will be Adele Nicoll of Great Britain who leads them off, with Ashley Nelson alongside her. And last year's race winner here, Lara Nolte, she'll be 13th out. And then we have the Voss-Ross combo at the end of the field. 7th race of the IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. Behind Adele Nicoll of Great Britain is 4-time Summer Olympian Ashley Nelson. Let's see what they've got this morning. First, to find out what this hard, fast ice is going to be like. Well, she had her best run, equal best run of the season yesterday in the Monobob with a 9th place finish, Adele. Like everybody else, 2 weeks here gives you a chance to really improve your knowledge and finesse your lines on the track. From 4 to 5, nice and straight. Into corner 6, sun up already on the track, so we'll see those shades closed probably in the second heat. Nearly 62 miles an hour already, building speed down through 10 and 11. And then corner 12 that leads you into 13. You always come a bit sideways into 13. Nice exit from 13 down to 14. She had a really flying second heat yesterday. That would have given her loads of confidence for today. Across the line, ducks ahead, 52.25. Well, the only benchmark we have at the moment is a 51.68 track record. We don't know what everybody else is going to produce in today's conditions. That looked pretty neat and tidy. Watch the start. Adele's still recovering from her foot injury from earlier in the season, before Christmas. Sliced it open with a runner. They're not sharp runners, but when it's got 300 or 400 kilos of sled on top of it when you're running and it pinches your foot, sure made a mess. Well, that's a nice exit out of 13. Maybe a little on the wrong side coming into 14, but I think she's happy with that. Ashley Nelson behind her in her 2nd World Cup race. Now, Ying Qing of China celebrates her 30th women's bobsleigh start today in the World Cup. She finished 10th here last year, 19th last week, with Liv Chen behind her. Liv, the 19-year-old brakewoman, in her 4th Women's World Cup start. And there's the blast off from the blocks. Liv vaulting in there, trying to get that power. If you land going forward, you add speed to the sled. So 5.69 compared to 5.54 of the British duo. Red numbers mean she's behind. A little indicator on the bottom right of your screen. That shows you where the sled is at the moment in the rankings. So second place at the moment of 2, obviously. Second best speed, that's on the left-hand side. 121 kilometers an hour. That is 75 miles an hour and still accelerating. 131, 81.9 miles an hour. And 6/10 back at the line, 52.86. Well, Ying missed the first part of the World Cup season. So no pre-season sliding for her, no early season sliding for her. So she's still trying to get her chops back, find her touch as we get ready for the World Championships in a couple of weeks' time. Little skids at the top of the labyrinth, taking the speed away and sending you late into corners, and then you fall late off the exit. And from 13 down to 14, fully crossed up. Sled's turning right as the corner goes left. That means you really have to haul on the steering to get it round and not wreck it on the exit. 13 to 14, pretty neat. 15 sleds in the field. 4 of our US competitors and a couple of others already headed off to Lake Placid for training for the World Championships. For the rest, though, the final race, Victoria Chernanska and Lucia Mokrosova, their 16th World Cup race together. Vicky wasn't here last year, so this is her first time on the track, so a little bit of a knowledge deficit. A couple of hundreds quicker than the Chinese sled, so you can see the bottom right-hand digit. She's second at the moment, behind current leader Adele Nicol, but ahead of Ying Jing. Speed shows on the left-hand side. 61.68 miles an hour, just a whisker behind Adele Nicol. Still, the gap at 0.2 of a second, but better speed. Taking some of that early frost out of the track, maybe. Ice Meisters here have done such a good job. 2 weeks of non-stop sliding, skeleton and bobsleigh, and the track is still in excellent condition. And this is a good practice, of course, for when the World Championships, make your own words up, for when the World Championships come here in 2027, because that will be kind of a week of training beforehand and then 2 weeks of competition. The track will be very busy, not the optimal hit. You want the brake woman to be moving the sled and the driver to be inputting power on the handle at the same time. And Vicky overshooting there, and she almost vaults across the top of the sled. So the Ice Meisters, Morten Paulsen, Eivind Bjørgo, and the track crew really deserve a shout out. Athletes have been so complimentary about the condition of the track. Has she pulled something? Yeah, maybe she's just clipped that elbow as she hit the bar. Maybe banged it on the inside of the sled. So track record ice here for 4 weeks. Now, there was a bit of tape that flew off the sled. We saw midway down, just below the labyrinth. It looks like the track workers are going in to find it. There was a week of paid training before the World Cup started. So 2 weeks of World Cup action and Europe Cup as well. There was no skeleton this week, so the IBSF planners managed to fit in a Europe Cup race as well, or Europe Cup races. So what looked like there should have been a gap in traffic, there definitely wasn't. Well, although the air temperature overnight down to -18, the ice temperature dropping down to -7 or 8 overnight, because the concrete in the track takes a long time to cool down in the overnight low, much longer than the air, obviously, because it's denser, like the Earth itself, but it also takes a lot longer to warm up in the sunshine as well. So waiting now for not Monaco, but for France. Max Robert keeping himself limber. Max Robert and Bruno Mijon combining. Max is effectively the team manager and general factotum, and Bruno Mijon shares those duties, and also, of course, the driving coach for France and for Monaco. So for Margot Bock, for Roman Heinrich of France, and for Boris Vian of Monaco. And so they combine their resources very effectively in terms of athletes, training, where they stay, how they travel, transport of sleds. So, for instance, yesterday in the two-man race, it was this sled that Margot was about to drive that was being driven by Boris Vian. In fact, no, it's not. He was driving the French sled. Margot seems to be driving a Monaco liveried sled. So maybe it's just which one that they prefer the feel of. So we're ready to go then with Margot Bock and Carla Seneschal, and these two started their journey together in the junior programme in Europe Cup, and then came together in the World Cup for the first time on home ice at Le Plan in December 2023, the beginning of last season. Margot's 21st Women's Bobsleigh World Cup start, 5:54, ties with Adele Nicol for the start. She's got good driving skills. Margot Bock still tied for the lead. She's smooth and fluid. She builds speed well. Only the third best speed. Little late flop there out of quarter 9. 12 to 13 looked fairly clean, fell out of 13 though. That takes energy out of the sleds, and that will be energy that should be driving you forward. Across the line, 800s back in second place. Now again, you know, as each sled comes down, this allows us to kind of rank how everybody is roughly in line with each other. And to be ahead of Margot shows that Adele Nicol had a very good drive down. They had identical starts. And yes, just 900ths of a second or 800ths of a second is not a monstrous margin, but you can win or lose a place or two with a 100th in this game. So not too sideways coming down into 13, but she was late on and late off 13 there. Almost de rigueur to take that little tap on the left-hand side in a two-seater sled. So Margot Bock, Carla Seneschal, done and down. Next up, Lisa Buchwitz, bronze medalist here last week. Our world champion has Nayla Scooter behind her. Nayla was on cheerleading duties at the top of the track yesterday for the Monobob race. 5:36 getaway. Now this is where we start to see the quick starts. 5:32 is the start record. That is likely going to be in trouble in the second heat when the ice at the start area warms up and frees up a little. 3/10 up on Adele Nicol from 1800s fast to start. Best speed of all as well, 61.7 miles an hour. Just a whisker quicker. 3700s, not really getting away. 76 miles an hour for the first time. Good run from 13 to 14. Buchwitz in 2 years has turned from a pusher who could drive a little bit to an absolutely top-tier driver. 51.75. Seven-time race winner, 3 silvers and 7 bronze medals. And as a driver, 3 gold, 3 silver, and 4 of those bronzes have come. And this is since the last Olympics she started to drive. Such a powerhouse away from the block, and with Nela Scooter behind her, they start really well. Third in the overall World Cup rankings. Took a crystal globe in the monobob, the gold, the overall season champion. She lies third behind teammates Kim Kilicki and Lara Nolte in the women's bob as well. Lisa Buchwitz leads, first 5 sleds down. Now, change of lineup behind Melissa Lotholtz was due to be Leah Walkenden, but she's ill, so Skylar Sieben gets her 6th World Cup start. 24-year-old University of Arizona heptathlete and hurdler who joined the team this year. Made a debut in Altenburg, raced here last week as well, was due to have today off, but needs must, in nice and gently. 5:46, a 10th back at the start. So that is good work from Melissa Lotholtz and Skylar Sieben. Second on the splits, 1900s back at corner 6. Best speed of all. Looks like the track is getting quicker. Early draw normally works really well. Maybe a little bit like Samaritz. With the deep overnight low, it's freeing up as we go through the run. Big hit from 13. Still the best speed. Quarter of a second back in second place. Still the best speed. 82.3 miles an hour. And a third of a second back, 52.08. So she's ahead of Adele Nickel by 1700ths. Behind Lisa Buchwitz by 33. 8th place here last week rather, with Leah Walkenden. That's a nice looking run. Good from 13 to 14. Takes the hit. And fortunately for her, comes off square there. And that's the other angle, 13 to 14. Comes into 14 a little bit to right of centre, but got onto the corner nicely. Good run from Melissa Lotholtz. She's absolutely fired up about that. So now then, what about Katie Bile? She's got Nicola Pichler behind her in her 5th World Cup start. 2 of Nicola's 4 previous races came in Sigulda in February last year. Katie Bile 4th here last week. 5:44 getaway, that's excellent starting. Second fastest, just 800ths behind Lisa Buchwitz. Don't think there'll be a faster start than Buchwitz and Scooten. So Katie Bile right in there. Former World Cup champion, Katie Bile. She's a very smooth driving talent and a lot of fun. Second best at the moment. Second best speed. 2/10 behind Buchwitz. Not bad out of 13. Still holding that advantage over 3rd place, which will be Melissa Lotholtz at the line. No, it's not. She slips 400ths behind Lotholtz. So it shows what a good run Melissa Lotholtz had. Mel had a really good start and a really nice run. That was a great getaway for Katie Bile and Nicola Pichler. See the snow in the bottom of the sled when they haul on the brakes. It all comes up through the hole in the bottom. Nice little view from above of 10-11. And that's going from 12 into 13. Again, big slide. Nose of the sled being turned away from the corner, which means you have to work harder in it. And that's what robs that speed that we saw going from the fastest to the 3rd fastest. One more. And then getting ready for the World Championships. Maybe a couple of days at home, maybe not so much. 2 weeks before we start action in Samaritz. In Lake Placid. Next up, Melanie Hasler with Muswama Kampunji behind her. Muswama in her 5th World Cup start. And Melly in her 36, finished 6th last week. She's 4th in the overall season's rankings. What a strong year she's had. 5.40. So it looks as though there's some very strong starting going on here. Second fastest start. Just 400s behind Lisa Bukvitz. Out to 1200s back. Not the best speed. Little late flop there as well. Whoa! Late. Back in charge again now. The sled was getting away from her. 9, 10, 11, 12. And only the 8th best speed. 4th at the line, 52.21. So only 400s ahead of Adele Nickel. That leaves her, what's my maths doing? 900s behind Catty Bile. So that might be a top 6 run. 6th or 7th maybe. Still have 2 more quick German sleds to go. A couple of others who could potentially be in the top half dozen. Look at that looping height. Maybe a little more ice being covered there than is ideal. And a late flop as well. And that's the way it is. If the track is very different or even subtly different in the race to how it was in training, it can sucker you into mistakes. Cynthia Pia now with Morgan Ramsey behind her. 4th World Cup start for Morgan, another of the new brakemen in the Canadian team this season. Made a debut in Altenburg, raced in Samaritz and Lake Placid last year, but only Samaritz this season. And Sin finished 11th. Last week, but with her first medal. She got 6th last week in the mono, got silver this week in the monobob, so she will be absolutely buzzing as well. 1500ths of a second back at the start, and out to 4/10ths back at the moment. 5th fastest start, but 7th on the splits. Not quite as smooth as she was in the mono. Nice through 13. Let's see if she can pick up a little bit here. Whoa, big waves in 15. And across the line, 8th place, 52.47. 5th at the start, 8th at the bottom though. She'll be disappointed with that. Not the bounce back effect that she would have hoped for after yesterday. Again, watch the driver vault in. You've got to get in, get your feet down around the bungee straps that hold the D-rings. And some of those who drive with their hands close together, the bungee straps will be narrow in the center, and some of them, if you drive with your hands sort of knees width apart, then obviously you've got to get your feet around the outside of those at speed downhill on ice with the first corner rushing at you. Dead easy. For Germany, Kim Kilicki with Vanessa Mark behind her. Kilicki's 39th World Cup race in the women's bobsleigh. Gold medalist last year, silver last week. Vanessa Mark's 12th World Cup start. Made her debut in Lake Placid in December 2019 with Kilicki. They got a bronze medal on her first appearance. Oh, Kilicki taking her time to get in, not panicking. And what is that noise, Marco? What is the noise on those sleds? That rattling, chattering. 1700s back on teammate Lisa Bugwitz at the start. She's going to have to produce one heck of a drive to get back ahead of Bugwitz by the bottom. She's out to 5th on the splits. 5th best speed. Falls off 13. 3800s back. At the moment, she's going to be behind Melly Hasler, only the 7th best speed. She's 6th at the line, 100th behind Adele Nicol. Is she okay? She had a... Gets her knee caught, gets her feet caught in the bungees. So now she sort of has to reverse, almost back out of it, get her leg back out. She's not panicking, she's not stressed. She's in, she's quiet, she's driving, she's got the bar down. But the rest of the run, a bit of tape coming off. In these icy cold conditions, the glue in tape stops being gluey. Genuinely, ask a skeleton slider. Most of their sled is tape, and in these sub-zero temperatures, when it's really bitter, the glue stops sticking. Lisa Bugwitz leads from Melissa Lottholtz and Katie Bile. There's the top 3. 11th of our sleds, Andrea Greco with Theodora Vlad together for a 28th time in the 53 women's bobsleigh races that Andrea Greco has driven in. This is her 70th women's bobsleigh race, including the ones where she was a push athlete. So congratulations to her. That's a massive milestone in the women's field. And a good start, 5:53, same as Killicky. Sixth at the start, out to 9th early on. Eighth best speed. Cynthia Peer is 9th. Victoria Chananska is 8th. Is she going to fall between them? Does she get ahead of the Slovakian athlete? She does not. So 200ths ahead of Cynthia Apia and 500s behind Victoria Chananska. There's going to be a little bit of sort out in the second heat, isn't there? 52.45. Only 2/10 behind Kim Killicky in 6th. And 2/10 of a second is a tiny amount of time, but in this sport is probably going to be a handful of places. Out of 13, not a bad exit. Has not been probably the season that Andrea Greco was hoping for. She's going to have to take a good 3 or 4 places out of her results this year for next, if she wants to be in a position that she's hoping for the Olympics. Kelly van Petegem of Belgium with Xanthi van Drescher behind her. 2nd World Cup for the pusher. Made her debut in Altenburg in December 2024. And her only other race was Lillehammer in December 2023 in Europe Cup. So just 2 official races. 9th World Cup start as a driver, 10th in total for Kelly. Lots of shouting from the back from Anne van Nieuwenhuis. 5:69 getaway for the Belgians. Sled Ruby, let's see what they can produce. 11th fastest start, so quicker than Yingqing of China. Or in fact, as fast as Yingqing of China. So let's see if she can drive herself into a top 10. 10th best speed. Cynthia Apia is in 10th place at the moment. Yingqing of China in 11th. Eighth best speed. That's a little quicker than Apia, I think. Fell off 13 a little. 11th best speed. Yeah, speed's gone away, so she's not going to get to Cynthia Apia. Is she ahead of Ying at the line? She is ahead of Ying at the line by 0.12 of a second. Well, 15th here last week, Kelly. This is her second World Cup outing here, because she raced here last week, of course. And she's had 5 races here in Europe Cup as well, so she's got relatively decent track knowledge. Little flop off 13, sends her onto the wrong side for 14. Coming into 15, holds the line nicely. You can see Xanthi, the brake woman, bent double. That's her feet in front of her, her legs going right up to the back of the seat of the driver. Push athletes don't have a seat. Drivers don't actually sit in a seat. There's a little seat back, sort of crescent-shaped thing they brace themselves against. Now then, our Olympic champions, Lara Nolte, Deborah Levy for Germany. Winners last week, World Cup points leaders. Silver medalists here last year. And of course, this is a familiar track from the earliest days for Lara Nolte. She won Youth Olympic gold here in 2016 in a monobob sled. Vanessa Mark in and down like grease lightning. Good start, 5:34. Outstarting Lisa Buchwitz and Nella Skuten. Never an easy task, but they've outstarted them by a couple of hundreds. And now, last week's winner needs to do it again. Good looking run, just inches ahead of Buchwitz. Really literally fractions in it. It might be down to less than centimetres at the line. 0.06 of a second. Across the line by 0.02 of a second. We are down to centimetres at the line. 0.02 of a second at 82 miles an hour. I don't know how much that is, but it is not much. Again, just overshooting on the handle of fraction. That's why Vanessa is in and down before her driver. And Lara even just chinned her helmet there on the cowl getting in as well. She was that much further forward. And so that knocks your head back as well, just gives you that little shock. All right, leading by 200s. It's going to be fun. All right, settle down in Australia. Next up, Sarah Blizzard with Ashley Werner. Yesterday, a big race for Brianna Walker. Claimed her second consecutive monobob gold here. She's not racing in the women's, but Sarah Blizzard and former driver Ashley Werner are. Ashley in her 4th World Cup as a driver. She drove as a brake woman, drove in 4 World Cup races as a driver, and raced in the Olympic Games in the monobob and in women's bob in Beijing. This is Sarah's 6th women's bobsleigh race. She'd only been here once in Europe Cup previously, and then paid training and the last couple of weeks of World Cup action. 5:68 getaway, 12th best start, but drifting out a little to 14th place. Still very early in her driving career. She is the newest in our field in terms of World Cup starts. 7th best speed at the bottom though. That's good stuff. 52.85. She's ahead of Ying Qing of China, who comes in with a lot more experience and a lot more money behind the operation in terms of kit and everything else. Good effort from Sarah Blizzard and Ashley Werner. Our resolute fan on the other side with the cowbells. He's also the guy you can see holding up signs occasionally. Dedicated in his enthusiasm. A little rattle there and comes slightly into the wrong side going into 14. And then looping out of 14 into 15. Gets that big early pressure. Doesn't hold it all the way up. The sled just won't take that because you're not going quite fast enough to hold that height. But a good run. And our final sled, Vos and Ross. Erica Vos, who made her debut last week, and Charlotte Ross, who makes her debut today. The 21-year-old former Carlton Ravens rugby player. Her 10th bob race of her career. And this is Erica Vos's second World Cup start as a driver. Started in the World Cup on the brakes in Koenigsee in January 2021. She's been driving since after the World Championships in St. Moritz in 2023. 16th race as a driver for Erica Vos. This is her first track outside of North America. 11th at the start, up to 12th place ahead of Kelly van Petegem at the moment. Slipping back a little lower down, late flop there, and across the line, 52.99. So good effort from Erica Vos. Good speed early on, came apart a little below the labyrinth. Her brakewoman, by the way, Charlotte Ross, just 21, and one of 3 Carlton Ravens rugby stars in the Canadian setup. Keaton Brueggeling and Jay Dearborn, also from the same rugby base, from the same team. There you saw her a little late on the end of that 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 complex. There's Erica on the left and Charlotte on the right. 1 down, 1 to go. So, top of the pile, and perhaps we shouldn't be surprised at this. Lauren Holter and Deborah Levy. Holter, the winner here last week. The Youth Olympic champion here in 2016. And she has a slender lead over Lisa Buchwitz, with Melissa Lottholz in 3rd place. So really good first run from Mel Lottholz at the end of her return season to Women's World Cup. Katy Barr 4th, Mel Hasler 5th, and Adele Nicolin 6th, ahead of Kim Kilicki, Margot Bock, Vicky Chananska and Andrea Grecu. Then a disappointing first run for Cynthia Appiah. She's ahead of Kelly van Petegem, Sarah Blizzard, Ying Ching and Erica Vos. Well, they will go in reverse order in the second heat, and that will be coming up at 10:30 CET, 09:30 Greenwich Mean Time, 04:30 Eastern. Join us then for the final run of the Women's Bobsleigh World Cup season. We will be back in an hour and 20 minutes. No, I beg your pardon. In 50 minutes from now. Don't come back in an hour and 20, you'll have missed all the fun. We'll see you then. Bye for now.